Welcome to Audio Able, an extension of our blog at Able United. We know there are a lot of resources available, and navigating them can be overwhelming. So we created this series to help you. We'll take a deeper dive into the important issues and topics affecting the disability community. We'll also get to hear from guest speakers who serve or represent individuals with varying disabilities and experts on available resources. We hope you'll spend some time with us to listen in. Now, let's get right to it.
Welcome back to another episode of Audio Able. For those of you who have been following us for some time, you may be familiar with what we call Faces of Able. Shortly after we launched Able United, we set out to shed light on the stories, the achievements, and the milestones of our account holders, the faces behind what we do. These individuals are using their Able accounts to save and invest for today, tomorrow, or whatever the future holds. And today we're taking Faces of Able to a whole new level. We're joined by one of our newest Able United ambassadors, Dr. Virginia Londell Ramsey, who we know as Ginny. She is an associate professor and the director of the nurse anesthesiology program at Florida Gulf Coast University, and mother to her 20-year-old daughter, Camryn, with autism and intellectual disabilities. Ginny, thank you for taking the time to share your story with us today.
Well, thank you for accommodating my schedule. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So to get us started, tell us a little bit about Camryn. What is her personality like? What does she like to do for fun?
Well, Camryn herself is just a lightning bolt. She is so bubbly and engaging and fun to be around. She is very caring. She has a high empathetic energy where she can read the room. She has very good social awareness, and she's very driven and outgoing. And her brother always says if it wasn't for Camryn, he would not have made any friends as a child because she was the one to take the lead. And she's a really hard worker. She does everything at an excellence level. When she works, her teachers, her mentors all tell me how wonderful a job she does. It doesn't shock me because I know my daughter. Now, when she's at home, different story, but she does always give more than 1,000% when she's out there.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share how Camryn came to join your family and what that experience was like? I know it's a little bit unique.
Well, infertility problems, I don't know how unique that is, but that was my situation. So we applied for adoption. My husband and I had to go through adoption courses, and it was a very arduous process here domestically in the United States. And we had to go through several weeks of, coordinating with the birth parents. And when they said yes to us, that's when we had to sit down, and they passed an envelope across the table, and we opened the envelope, and there was a picture of our daughter.
Wow.
And she's beautiful. And it's not just about the physical attributes of someone. It was just, she kind of was shining through that picture.
Yeah.
And my husband and I will never forget that moment where we just looked at each other and said, oh my God, this is our daughter. And we knew going in that there were going to be some obstacles, but we were still willing to go forward. At that time, we obviously had no idea, because we were bright-eyed, and we, now we're a little bit more savvy to handling an individual with an intellectual disability and with autism, because that is a whole set of issues that we just weren't prepared for. And it's taken many years to actually try to be halfway decent out of it, because we've had counseling and coaching and reading and all these kinds of things to try to benefit our daughter, because if we don't learn as parents, then we can't possibly support. Parenting is hard enough, and then you add that layer on, and then you just want to support your child. And if you're not, I guess, well versed in how to handle yourself first, then you can't possibly guide somebody else. So,
Right.
you know, Camryn, we got Camryn, she was 11 weeks old, and, you know, we've had her, you know, obviously ever since. She's mine and only mine, you know, and she knows that. Really, like, you sit back and think, would I do this over again? And I think I definitely would do it over again. You know, knowing all that I know, I still wouldn't want her to be any different. I wouldn't want her, she would, you know, I would want her to be her, because
Right.
what she is delightful. Like, she's an amazing person.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you shared such great insight, and I'm sure one of the things that you learned being exposed to all of these different resources were ABLE accounts and ABLE United. So tell me a little bit about how you heard about ABLE United and why you opened an account for Camryn.
When I, you know, investigated the school system that, you know, we're currently in, it was a fantastic school system for a public school system. And I couldn't believe how lucky we were. And that the inner workings of that IEP meetings and multiple meetings and
Right.
emails and calls. And that's how we went to these, you know, they would have classified meetings just for us to come and learn about future things. And that's how we initially got, you know, introduced into the benefits of ABLE.
Awesome. So what is your hope for Camryn's future?
Well, my hope is her hope. So whatever she wants is what I want. And she's been pretty spot on her convictions in life and what she wants to do, and her natural talents of empathy. And she, like I said, she can face read. She's very observant. She really loves children. And obviously children identify with her because she's like the Pied Piper. She'll be in the neighborhood. She's with other kids. It doesn't matter what age they are. And she really welcomes kids in. So she's told me over and over again that she wants to be, you know, kind of work in a daycare system or work in a school system with children.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working towards now. And she's doing like different externships, and she has like a volunteer job that she works in a daycare. And with ABLE, we're you know, taking the earnings that she has, like through her job externships that she has, and putting that money in that ABLE account, because then we want to invest with her in a business, in a childcare business, and then she can be part owner and be a manager, but then also be a worker. And that is really kind of our big picture plan for her.
Yeah.
And she's totally on board with that. And that's kind of what we're working towards.
That's awesome. That's very exciting. So I know obviously the disability community is close to your heart with your current involvement as a fellow in the Golaciano Institute for Developmental and Intellectual Disability in Nursing. You've mentioned previously that your hope is to close the gap on healthcare disparities in all populations of people. So what is our first step in achieving this?
Well, first of all, I'm a nurse anesthesiologist, and we give very specific, highly skilled care in the operating room setting, and sometimes out of the operating room. And when I teach my students in the lab, this is an awesome opportunity to teach our students how to handle individuals with intellectual disability.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, you know, my vision also is to bring individuals with intellectual disability in the lab so they can learn how to advocate for themselves and say, no, stop. Because again, we weren't trained. I can tell you, I can speak from my own personal experiences, that I was never trained on how to navigate those waters. And over the years, I myself, along with my colleagues, have always tried to do our very best. However, it's murky, and the waters are murky. And knowing more what I know now, even having my own daughter with intellectual disability, and like I told the fellowship group, thinking that I was going in a little bit with more of a leg up because I'm dealing with it personally on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
I learned so much that I did not know. So being an educator, a mom, a nurse, nurse anesthesiologist, all those things.
Yeah.
There's so much I didn't know. So if there's things that I don't know, the
Of course.
door is wide open for everyone else. The main takeaway in a short synopsis is we need to start really listening to our patient and what our patient needs. And this goes across the board for everyone. We may have to bring them in a day, 2 days before to talk to them, to take 15, 20, 30 minutes, if that's what it takes, to sit and speak with this person. The other takeaway is we need to talk to that person directly and not to the person that's sitting next to them, or at least acknowledge the person in the chair versus talking to, whether it's a caregiver, their parent, a family member, a friend. It's actually the patient that we need to talk to and not ignore. And I think that is another deficit that we need to work on as a community of medical providers that we really haven't been doing. So the feedback that I've been getting from other patients from, in this kind of genre is that we're not talking to them directly and we are not considering them. So I think that's really the big takeaway.
Yeah, that is so important. So now on to our last question. If someone were to ask you what the number one benefit of an Able United account is, what would you say?
People with intellectual disability are of the lowest economic population, meaning that they have their earning potential. They're not acknowledged. I think overall, 20% or 25% of individuals with intellectual disability are actually hired in the United States, meaning that they're not able to make that living. That like my daughter, who is willing and able, ready to do it, she gets dismissed. And so, it's a multi-factor thing that now we've got this individual who not only is being limited on how they can work, but what they can earn and where they can keep those earnings. And then on every side, they're going to get penalized. And with Able, this is actually allowing a person to go in, to learn a job, to do it right, to enjoy it, make those earnings, and then take those earnings and put them and be actually protected to invest in something for them. So then we can change that dynamic and that statistic that is so dismal that makes me even uncomfortable to talk about, and change that future. Because, this is where I get a little teary-eyed, is where I think about my daughter and those in her situation. If they don't have someone like me, who do they have? And so when their options are limited, at least Able is there to protect them, so that no one can touch that money, and that money is for them. And in this way, we know that future goals, whatever they are, can be met. And that this person doesn't have to live month to month. And that is really the most important thing, is that security.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ginny, thank you so much for your time today. We love sharing these stories with our community. Our Faces of Able are our biggest advocates, our success stories, and the reason that this program exists. If you're an Able United account holder and are ready and willing to share your story, we want to hear from you. All you have to do is email us at info@ableunited.com. For more Faces of Able stories, including our friends Caleb, Samantha, Faith Christina, and dozens more, visit the Faces of Able section in our blog.
Well, that's it for now. Have topics you'd like us to address? Interested in sharing a resource? Drop us a line at info@ableunited.com. Thanks for listening in, and we'll catch you next time on Audio Able.